Next point that I had, which is, I hope you have some insights to more than most of us here. In relation with the Trump situation and potential ceasefire deal, which has been pushed a lot in the media lately, I have a couple of questions in relation to Meloni. A few months ago, a very large Ukrainian OSINT team calculated, based on satellite images, that there are still quite substantial parking lots, I would say, of Italian old armored vehicles that I guess would need a quite substantial amount of refurbishment, but in theory could be put into use in Ukraine. And you think in light of the Trump situation, North Korea, and the problems with armored vehicles in general, do you think there's a larger chance you will see Italy push a little bit more for this? And also then another point, Meloni traveled to China not so long ago to sign different trade agreements with the Chinese, and at the same time we see a lot of reports that the Chinese might actually be supplying not necessarily weapons, but direct components or systems that are needed for the operational readiness of the Russian forces. Do you think Meloni could also, in some way, be a broker between Ukraine and China and pressure that situation?
I think you gave it to Italy too much importance. I mean, it's already 3 hours and 12 minutes, and Meloni can't do jack shit. Okay, they spent months making photos. So we are with Ukraine until 1991, when it was convenient. Okay, now that it's not convenient for his own internal problems, etc., they just avoid that. Yes, we have some M113 and some old artillery systems. They are sitting there since 20, 30 years. We try to solve them to Africa many times, and bureaucratic problem and quality problems, of course. I don't think they are in a state where you can refurbish them. Also, who is going to do that? The last time we sent them to Germany, if I remember, to refurbish the last stuff, and some were doing in North Italy. It's not stuff that is going to change much in Ukraine. It's not a couple of very old. Also, they were, if I remember, the chassis was made of aluminium. You know what happens when you leave stuff made of aluminium in open? It becomes brittle, destroy itself pretty much. It's not a very good stuff. What Italy can do more is ammunition, but again, internal laws blocked in Sardinia the expansion of fabric for environmental stuff. Meloni just followed the wave, and now she's going to follow what Trump and the other right is going to do. So Italy is irrelevant in this story, to be honest. Doesn't make any difference whatsoever. The most help Italy can do in this situation, just not be another Orban. This is enough if it stay aligned with the others, but don't expect much from Italy. Yes, we can give it some PT, but we don't have much ammunition, so production for the system also is beneficial to us because we gain a lot of information using SMPT in the real, war environment. But that's it. Don't expect much. I mean, I know there is Ukrainian training in Livorno, Folgore, and other stuff. We also trained the Ukrainians to use of SMPT in Verona, North Italy. That's it. We can give some help in that sense. But already, if Italy doesn't do Orban style stuff, is already of help. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I know. And I just I got these questions from someone that knew that you were coming, so I had to ask them. And I mean, thank you for being honest.
There is a last question. They ask how much is dependent from gas from Russia. Zero, pretty much at the moment. We are buying from other sources, so there is a leftover. Let's see, we gain stuff from Turkey. Eni had a lot of links with Gazprom before. That's for sure. But we are losing that dependence. Also, recently, you see Austria got this little problem with Gazprom stop selling to them gas because the Austrians needed to give them 230 million because the Russians stopped giving gas to Germany, and their company have also involvement in Germany. But yeah, let's look at this from a strategic point of view. Having a country depending on another country for the supply of a certain thing is not a good thing. So at least we discovered as Europe that we should not be dependent on a certain resource, especially if that resource come from certain kind of nations. The same happens if you need to depend on Iran or turbulent country. So it's better divided. It's like in real life. You have a portfolio where you divide your money, and risk. We should divide also strategic risk in that sense. Yeah, also Azerbaijan is not that great. Yeah, I know. And another thing, and I need to go, but I leave you another topic which for me is very important. Besides the economy for Russia going to 21% inflation rate and things like that, secondary sanctions. If you look how much Poland, Germany, Italy send stuff to Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, you see a skyrocket of 4,000% of many things. Turkey also work as a dealer for stuff that Russia needs. Serbia as well. So in a way, the Russians managed to keep going with their production because there's a lot of countries that help them getting access to secondary markets, acting as dealer. India is one of these countries, and also we have a lot of very smart people in Europe. Greece was buying Russian oil, and they were exchanging in the middle of the sea. And then selling to Europe. India is buying Russian oil, refine it and send to Europe, and we pretend it's Indian. All of this stuff which cost to Russia more is anyway keeping their war machine. And we not seems very interested in blocking this kind of stuff. We even make media stuff like, Western production and industry left Russia. It's not true. Coca-Cola just rebranded and sold itself to Dobre Cola. And then when everything changed, Dobre Cola will be rebought by Coca-Cola. That's the game. One of the biggest seller of t-shirt and brand in Russia is Polish. And they keep selling. So there is a way to avoid sanctions, and we are not really doing our best, even if the sanctions are slowly hitting Russia, and it will cause them a lot of problems in the next year and in the years to come. We should have done way better than that, especially looking at the dual-use stuff.
Yes, and Daniele has been talking about this several times before because he's been doing studies on certain factories that the Russians are able to use because of European dual export. Sorry to keep you so long.
No, I give you one last thing. A couple of weeks ago, I got hands of a document where a lot of important people from Germany met with the Putin delegation in Baku, and suddenly Scholz make a phone call with Putin, and I said, if all these people talk, on this important hotel, in Baku, and there is a delegation from Germany and delegation from Putin, of course they were talking about energy. it means that the point of view of Putin, it's fine. We are trembling, there is some gaps where he can work, and Scholz, as Zelensky have said, just give to Putin a good stuff for him. When he was completely isolated, and suddenly Scholz talked with him. We are talking about energy and stuff like that. This is officially, and everybody know that he phoned Putin. 2 weeks before, people from energy and industry of Germany met with people from energy and industry from Russia in Baku. So there is a lot of stuff that happening underground, and then slowly it comes out. But this show a lot of strategic weakness when Germany do something like this, and other countries are trying to help Ukraine. And this is exactly the point where Putin is trying to use his leverage, the division of strategic views of the various countries of Europe, which we say we are Europe, etc. But from a strategic point of view, everybody do their own business and see the involvement in this situation at very different levels.
Yeah. So last, before you go, there's been a lot of people asking in the chat about what we think about the long-range strike announcements, or not really announcements, but reports in the media that the White House have changed the restrictions. We don't know how they changed them, but there are a lot of targets on the Russian sides, and we've mapped some of them. I think Daniele has a lot more that he needs to put into this map, but these are the targets that are within 500 kilometers. That's Storm Shadow, Scalp AG. How did I do this? Or maybe it's not open for the boundaries, Daniele. I think we lost Daniele. Yeah, but there's a map coming out with the boundaries for the different.
Oh, sorry, I'm back.
Okay.
I just activated my camera rather than the microphone. So, no, in this map we have only the ammo depot, and you can switch to the other type of map if you want to see the ammo depot. And yes, the red target are those within 500 kilometer, and they are pretty much, most of them, very old. There are a couple of very new in the 500 domain. The other map, which has a lot more target, which means oil refinery, not oil depot, and also distillery, is private. You can't access from. I have my computer. I still have to work on that to put before publishing it, unfortunately. But yeah, it has also the let me see if I can share it. Give me 1 minute.
But there is a flourish of targets also other than this. Air defense systems. There are logistic movements, of course.
Yeah.
So the question is, what kind of impact could this have? Also, want to emphasize, we don't know what restrictions are still on the Ukrainians, because until I see it, I don't believe they lifted all restrictions.
The question is for me, or
for everyone?
But I can say that there was a change of priorities for the Ukraine. If you remember, initially they started attacking all the refineries, etc., and then the effect was small, to be honest. I like the change that they did on the Kursk operation, because instead of hitting airfields, they start hitting deposits. I mean, airplanes are fine, but if they have no bomb to shoot, it's pointless. And that had a much bigger effect. When they hit the Lipetsk, deposit, the effect was so big that it not only lowered the amount of fire ratio of the Russians in Kursk, but also in Donbass, to give you an idea. And they hit also the one in Rostov, So they should hit big deposits, because a couple of planes are not going to make a difference. But if you destroy millions of worth of ammunition, they have a much bigger impact and more direct impact. The biggest problem for the Americans was not the red lines or fear of escalation, but the fact that the majority of the analysts, which are advisors to the Pentagon, etc., you can hear Kaufman and the others, they think it's too late for the Ukrainians to gain benefit from a strategic campaign, in the sense the effects, you will see the effects in a year, etc., and in their opinion, they don't have a year. It's too late, too little too late. That's the opinion. It's not worth the risk of escalation because it's happening too late. And also there is all the risk of direct involvement, in the sense that Scalp, Storm Shadow, etc., we will need to give them the guidance and things like that. It will be hard to relegate to Ukraine to use them all on their own. That means direct involvement in targeting and maneuvering of these cruise missiles, pretty much, which means direct involvement of pretty much NATO. This is the motivations. So that's why the Ukrainians, on the same time, in the parallel way, they start to developing their own deep strike capabilities, because they were not giving from the NATO partners, and probably they were never given to a level that will make a huge impact in the war itself. I mean, they needed to do this kind of campaign like 2 years ago, starting already, to see the effect today on a huge scale.
Well, I know that maybe Colby can talk about this better, because I see he just showed up. But I know that the U.S. has had a policy of not wanting to shoot across borders into other countries for a long time. I don't fully understand it, but I know that, like, for example, the U.S. didn't want to shoot into Pakistan when we were in Afghanistan, like, for example. And it's a long-standing policy, and they, in my opinion, they are irrationally applying that policy to this war. This war is fundamentally different. Like, the U.S. and Afghanistan is a fundamentally different prospect than Ukraine in Ukraine, and Pakistan, influencing Afghanistan is very different than Russia influencing Russia's attack on Ukraine. So it's like a fundamentally different problem, but the U.S. is like applying this logic for some reason that I really don't understand it. Maybe Colby can talk about it.
I don't know that is a long-standing policy. I mean, as you said, obviously the situation in Afghanistan was totally different. I mean, that was U.S. forces directly involved in their own war. This is just Ukraine fighting for themselves, not asking for anybody else to really come in and fight the war for them. They're just asking for weapons. So there may be some sort of continuity of thought there with regard to the way that the Obama administration approached that question in Afghanistan. I mean, obviously he ultimately authorized American forces to go into Pakistan to kill bin Laden. So it's not that U.S. forces never did operate in Pakistan. But in this case, I think it's quite clear. I mean, they've been pretty honest that they just believe that it is too much of an escalation risk. And slowly but surely that has been chipped away at. There was really not a whole lot of, it was not a very compelling case that they had to begin with, but over the course of 3 years of war almost now, it just became even more absurd with every passing day. And now the president has reportedly taken it a step further, but we still don't really know what exactly the new policy is. We just have people on the NSC presumably leaking to the press saying, yeah, we're changing the policy, but there's still a lot of confusion with some people saying that, oh no, well, it's only still going to apply to Kursk Oblast only, and that's all very uncertain, and we're not going to have certainty with that until we see the Ukrainians actually start conducting some fire missions. So it remains to be seen exactly what what they're going to allow. I'd be very surprised if it is a blanket, yeah, Ukraine, do whatever you want to. I think that's probably unlikely. There's probably still going to be some sorts of strings attached somehow. And again, that will hopefully we'll kind of get a better understanding of what the new terms and conditions look like over the coming weeks.
Do you guys find funny the fact that we see since years the rhetoric that Russia is holding, is not using all his potential, while technically the one that have a lot of limits to use even what we give is the Ukrainians. I mean, it's 3 years that the Russians are doing strategic campaigns against infrastructure of Ukraine, and we don't allow the Ukrainians to do the same. Who have more limits in that sense, a strategic balance, what one country can do to the other to diminishing its war effort is completely unbalanced towards Russian favor.
Yeah, I don't know if it was for Colby, this question.
No, in general, in the sense, all these red lines, self-imposed by us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry if I step in abruptly. To reply immediately to Mirko, yeah, I totally agree. I think Ukraine, since day one, has been fighting with probably both hands tied. Sometime Ukraine have done, of course, mistake. We have been discussed plenty of stuff regarding the counteroffensive, but one of the rhetoric that Mirko probably knows better than anyone apart me, because I'm not anymore in Italy, but I listen a lot of propaganda in Italy. There were a lot of people, even not propaganda, people that still thinking, oh no, well, Russia is retaining. Russia is not retaining at all. They start to use Kinzhal missile, which, okay, we can discuss technically is not an hypersonic weapon, is exactly, but they were using very good weapon where they needed and when they had. For example, the story about the FPV drone, oh, they are just retaining. No, when they have a capability, they use it. Look at the FAB. As soon as they manage to how to produce, how to mass produce, how to counter all the problem, they use en masse. So this is a fallacy. This is propaganda. This is someone. If someone is an analyst and tell you your enemy is retaining and doesn't give you circumstances, because retaining resources is something that armies do, but only for a specific portion of a front or a specific reason. That's they don't do, oh well, I don't want to be too strong, and then
let's not win too quick.
Yeah, it is completely no sense, because even Russia, even US has finite resources. This thing that an army cannot spend out its own storage is completely false. If things goes bad, you can get in very big trouble. So Russia is going to use, of course, resources for example, we discussed privately last time with you, Mirko, and this was correct. Cruise missile. They didn't use Sting yesterday, and they used, because they have and they will continue to use, because they have that resource. They know that they need to do certain things, and they will continue to do that. Instead, Ukraine had some opportunity to use this weapon, but these were not allowed, or was not done in time, or not at the best moment. Think about IFVs and all the stuff that they got for the summer offensive. If we were able to give them these immediately, even without as much training, Kharkiv offensive would be much deeper, much effective. So it's all situational, and I think this is a problem. I don't know if it's a problem of culture or is a problem of training of many analysts, but Russia is using resources as much as they need and as much they have.
I hope we not bring big unluckiness to this story, because yesterday when we closed the call and say, I'm pretty sure they're going to start again their strategic.
No, but I think it makes sense, because if they are producing missile, they are doing that.
They are augmenting the production.
Why they not?
They don't have enough to a continuous campaign, so they hold for a certain amount of months, usually between the summer and the winter, and then they have a brief campaign again, which they can sustain. Probably it will be bigger than the other one, but 5-6 big attacks, that's what they can sustain, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think what all matters is how much missile Ukraine has and how much defense is against cruise missile, because cruise missile do not need Patriots. So that's the other important point. And to going back to the Kaufman statement, which I knew about, I think Kaufman is, and ever say this lightly, but I think Kaufman is a bit wrong in what he say, because the main problem is that it's true that if you do something with the precise timing, the effect could be much larger. And this is the same reason why I saw a lot of OSINT people ranting, oh, why all these bridges didn't went down? Because if you destroy those bridges today, it has nothing, may help a little bit for a few weeks, but then Russia know how to repair bridge, Russia know how to go around bridge, and you can always find a new route. So sometimes some targets are good to be attacked and destroyed in a certain specific time. Today we discussed about Kursk. Think about those bridges that were destroyed, and even the pontoon were destroyed immediately after. That was a specific support of a maneuver on Koronevo. They were thinking, if we take Koronevo and then we can push further, eliminating those bridges will reduce the capability of the Russian. But then things played in a different way and they stopped. In fact, they are not bombing them anyway. And I think, and just to conclude, that there are a lot of things that can be done, especially on the logistic. Now, and the image that is not made by me is made by a Polish analyst. I should have also the Polish translate to English, but essentially you can see that they made an effort to try to track down how the logistic of Russian army works at different tiers. And essentially you can see that there is a tier between 0, so front line, to 85 kilometers, near front, 85, 150, and then the deep one, which is 150 and 300. And then, of course, there is stuff even behind that. So if Ukraine is able to start to point at this stuff behind the range of HIMARS, especially because now Russia has been more inclined to divide those ammo depot to avoid those very large stockpile that were hidden in the first few months and the first year of war.
Daniele, I made a video. Remember when the HIMARS arrived and the Russians started losing deposits everywhere? And I made, I think, a brave video for the time saying the HIMARS effect is a placebo effect. In the sense, if you think the Russian will keep continuing being stupid and making these huge deposits, you're really wrong. And also they consume. The Ukrainians in 4 months pretty much consumed the production of a year in terms of HIMARS missiles used. So it was not possible to continue with that system. So they divide into small deposits, in Italiano, diciamo, pollicino effect, you know?
But I think it was logical, and I think any army would have done that. And at the time, that was required to try for that period of time. Exactly, is not even a placebo, is a temporary solution, because it was a temporary solution for a situation that was on the ground at the time. But situation changed, and now they have to strike deeper and deeper. And of course, this will have not the effect of cancelling out the entire logistic of the Russian army, but will oblige them to move even further. And this will stretch much more their logistic and will hamper and slow down their capability. So just for this, and I don't want to go in other type of target, this will be beneficial. It's not going to change the entire war from day to night, but it is an help that you give to who is fighting on the front line. So sorry, this doesn't want to look like a rant. I'm trying to run to save time. So I think that giving this capability to Ukraine, it's very important, because it gives them more option to play with rather than being limited to not very short, but short range attack.
Also because it's very easy to predict for the Russian what the Ukrainians can do or not do. Or they can't
Exactly.
hit, after this red line, fine, we move all the air force just 100 kilometers back and they can do anything about it. Thank you for the information, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Increasing the dilemma. what's
Yep.
going to be the next target, essentially. Sorry, I'm done.
So I know that Mirko needs to leave. It's super late. I hope you can. I hope you had some dinner at some point tonight. I know you had a
No, I
stream
still
before.
need to eat, but I like it. But it's not for me. It's for my girlfriend. Because if it was for me, I was here for another 2-3 hours. But
Shh. So thank you so much, Mirko. I really want to have you back because this is a great conversation on not really one topic, but that's fine. We went over a lot of different topics, and it was a really good conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you all. To the next time.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye. And also thank you to Andrew, to Gesh, to Road to Mars, even if he didn't manage to ask his question, and everyone else that joined. So do we have any other things you want to talk about? There's been lots of questions in the chat, but I don't think we have...
I think if we wait another 20 minutes, we reach the longest live ever.
Yeah.
Maybe did we miss any questions? Maybe we can hit them next week.
Yeah. Okay. So to the people in the back end that are screening the questions, please, make a list of them, and then we'll get back to them next Sunday, I guess. Sorry,
Yeah.
chat, that we didn't answer all the questions.
And thank
Yeah,
you,
guys.
everyone, for staying with us until now, because 3 hours and 41 minutes. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really great panel. I really enjoyed that discussion. I think you guys covered a lot of ground. Great guests. I mean, you obviously welcome back on anytime. Love to hear from him. Yeah, I mean, I guess we wrap up then?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, thanks to our audience, of course, for if you guys managed to hang out for the whole thing, I really appreciate that. 3 hours and 40 minutes of top tier Ukraine analysis, I must say. So yeah, thanks guys for tuning in live. Thanks, of course, to people who watch the video later. Yeah, probably maybe a little more convenient to watch a massive 3 hour and 40 minute show over maybe a couple of chunks on demand. So I can respect that. Also, of course, thanks to our great panel. Thanks to all the guys in the basement for coming to visit us. Thank you, Andrew, for extending the length of their chains temporarily to permit them to come on our show. And now they're, of course, all back to work in the basement. And thanks, of course, to Andrew for stopping by. He does his own streams. Andrew, are you streaming on a regular time these days?
Absolutely not. The complete random.
Okay, no worries. So definitely check out Andrew's map. I don't know. I'll post a link or something later. Whenever Andrew streams, if you subscribe to him on the YouTube, they'll let you know. The good people at YouTube will let you know, maybe if they feel like it. Maybe hit the bell. I don't know how any of that works. Anyway, guys, thanks to, of course, all of our special guests. Thanks to Mirko for stopping by Parabellum. Really great, again, as I said, to have him on. But thanks, of course, to our regular panel, Germany to Ukraine, Daniele, Colby, and Erlend for holding down the fort as we always do. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in this week. We'll see everyone next week, I think, for a normal 2-hour stream. Same time, 2100 Kyiv time every Sunday. Slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава.
Героям слава.